I just love the way the dough turns out flaky and moist like this. The cheese gets a chance to melt. Let me separate this bit. But as you can see, the dough is flaky and almost like a pizza crust. It's an excellent way to enjoy Bannock. Well guys, thank you for joining me today, and thanks for all the new subscribers who joined my channel. It's always appreciated. I'm out here in the forest enjoying a nice brisk morning. Being chased by a pheasant. Don't know what I did to him, but if he keeps it up, he'll end up in my billy can for dinner. But first things up is breakfast. I thought I'd show you guys how to make stuffed bannock using only a pan basically. I got a question last week, or more like a complaint, that when you bake out in the forest in your billy can, it usually involves oil or flour and water, and that tends to make a mess. This recipe is very easy, very fast, and you wind up with almost no cleanup to do. So it's perfect for those mornings where you're in a hurry and want to get something inside of you and just be on your way. So stick around and I'll show you guys how to make stuffed bannock using only a pan. First I'll show you guys what I'm going to use to make the recipe, and then I'll show you how. So stick around and let's eat. Let me show you what I'm going to use to make my stuffed bannock today. First things up is the bannock mix. This is a pre-made version I made myself, but if you want a great tip, just use instant pizza crust mix as a bannock base. It works fine, and it tastes excellent and works quite well in a hurry. I'm going to use some cheese to stuff my bannock mix. You can use whatever you want. I prefer cheese. I'm going to include a little bit of optional pizza herbs, some little drops of oil to make my my bannock mix, not to use in the pan, but to include in my bannock mix. I'm going to make an improvised lid for my MSR Alpine pan out of tin foil, and I'm going to use some baking paper. And I'll show you the baking paper flip trick in a bit, but it's excellent out in the forest. It allows you to make kind of pizza crusts like breads or even cookies with ease. And I thought I'd change things up a little bit today and use my Trangia triangle. So let me get things set up and let's start baking. I also took along a small mixing bag I like to use. So put the bannock inside of the mixing bag. There we go. Now I include a little bit of oil. About, for this recipe, in this mix, I think about 2 tablespoons worth. But it's quite forgiving. And some water. And the trick is just to add water until you're satisfied with the crust. And what I'm looking for is kind of a flaky crust that makes more of a bread-like bannock than a cake-like bannock. And I always say it's easier to put more water in than to take it out. So I'm going to mix it up in bits. Let me get things mixed up and I'll get back to the baking. Alright, when you've prepared your bannock mix, put in some baking paper inside of your pan and try to make 2 bowls of bannock, and make like really as flat as you can flatbread. So you need 2 pieces of very flat dough, bannock dough, and just make it as flat as you can, because inside the pan, in the way I'm going to show you how to make this bannock, there won't be a lot of room for heat and moisture to build up, so you won't get a lot of rise, just enough to bake and make ready a small thin piece of bread. So make it as thin as you can. This is about right, and then remove it from the pan. Just lay it over here and take your next piece of baking paper, put that in, and do the same with the other ball of Bannock. I mean, this one needs a little bit more stiffening, a little bit more kneading. I try to put, especially on a day like this where it's very cold here, try to put a little bit of body warmth inside of your dough. There we go. Now make it as flat as you can again. And the baking paper will make sure it doesn't stick. It doesn't have to be very neat, but it does have to be flat. There we go. Almost there. There we go. Now it's time to put in the stuffing, and then we'll be all set. Now I'm going to put in a little bit of cheese. And what you want is to keep the edges of the Bannock dough free from any stuffing, because you're going to fold in the edges onto itself to make a kind of a crust. So put in as much cheese or stuffing as you like. I like to create a little ball or little heap in the middle. This is enough for me. Now you take the other piece of Bannock dough and you lay it over, and then you squeeze the edges tight, and you need about a finger's breadth of Bannock dough on each side. So make sure it's nice and tight. There we go. And now you fold the edges onto itself, and then you press. So you fold the edge and you press. Fold the edge. There we go. Fold the edge. This creates kind of a pastry. There we go. Now you wind up with a kind of pastry-like Bannock with the stuffing in the middle. Then you gently press down because you do want a little bit of flat area. Then you take the whole stuffed Bannock roll out and you lay it on the side. And now it's time to set up the baking setup. Right, I don't know if you guys can see it, but the alcohol is lit. I'm going to put on the simmering because I don't need a lot of heat, just a steady amount. There we go. It's time to put on the pan. Now, it's very easy. You just put in the pastry in the pan on the baking paper. You let that sit. The baking paper will prevent the Bannock from sticking, and now you're going to create a lot of heat and hopefully moisture in the pan by putting the foil on. If you want bread to rise, then you need both heat and moisture inside of whatever baking container you're using. So hopefully, if I tighten the edges when I'm able to use both hands, this will create an environment where we will get at least a little rise out of the Bannock dough, enough for it to cook through and through. When it's time to flip the Bannock, I'll show you guys the bottom and show you guys how well the baking paper works, because it really creates a kind of, don't know exactly how it works, but it creates a nice and even surface for the heat to disperse into the Bannock. So stick around and I'll show you guys when we're a little further along in the bake. So let's see how this is doing. Oh, it's getting there. I think it's time to flip because I definitely smell the bacon. You just use the other bit of baking paper, put it on. The dough will be sticky, so you'll have no trouble having it stick to the dough. And then what you're looking for is just grabbing onto the dough, you're flipping it on the pan. There we go. And as you can see, just need to flip it a little bit better. There we go. As you can see, the bottom is baking quite well. Time for the other side, so I'm going to put the tin foil back on, and we'll give the other side a chance to bake as well. There we go. Well, let's see if I'm satisfied with the amount of rice I'm getting from my baking environment. Once that happens, it's just a matter of cranking up the heat and well, basically browning the stuffed bannock as much as you like, as much as you prefer, because it will be done inside and nice to eat. So let's remove the tin foil, and it's definitely having the amount of rice that I like. That means you can just, well, pick it up, flip it, and finish it like that. As you can see, the edges have risen, and it's well, almost ready to eat. I'm going to have include a little bit more browning, so I'm going to have it put the trangia back on high and then let it sit for a while, because I prefer it a little bit more brown than this. But as you can see, the edges have risen. That means the dough is nice and hot inside. It's hard, hollow, so it's basically already ready to eat. But I prefer it a little bit more brown. Well, as you can see, I've put it on. I've kept it on a little bit too long, but it's perfectly fine. So it's time to cut the stuffed bannock. And as you can see, it's nice and done inside all the way through. The cheese is melted, and it's just a perfect, well, kind of a sandwich, really, a melted cheese sandwich. I am going to enjoy this. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hit the subscribe button or the like button if you do. I'm going to enjoy these stuffed bannock rolls a little more before I prepare for the hike home. See you next time, see you next video, and happy baking. Delicious.